And now, our last speaker, Fábio Oliveira from GetYourGuide.
Good afternoon, everyone. Yeah, cool. That's loud. Everyone awake? So I'm the last speaker, so I will build upon some topics that we already covered, like mobile apps, continuous delivery, A/B testing, and the title is Schedule Releases. Actually, it's also a blog post from Facebook from 2012. If any mobile developer knows this. And so I'm going to cover why GetYourGuide keeps its apps on a tight release schedule. And this should work. That's me. My name is Fábio. I'm an iOS engineer at GetYourGuide, and I graduated at this school, so it's a great honor to be here speaking to you all. And okay, first show of hands. Who has heard of GetYourGuide before commits? Okay, cool. More than I was expecting. GetYourGuide, so for those who don't know, it's a marketplace for tours and activities around the world. Marketplace means we sell tours, but we are not a tour operator. But let me give you a situation, a pathetic situation. Let's imagine you are in Porto, and you have a free Sunday to enjoy the city. Maybe you came to a conference in Porto, maybe. So you can download this great app. You will find stuff to do in Porto. Maybe hop on a puff, some wine tasting on a boat in the Douro River, or a normal walking tour. You check if it's available, you check the reviews, they are great, you book, and then you can go to the place where the tour is going to start, and you redeem it with your phone. We have tours around the world. We have the largest catalog largest online catalog for tours. More than 25,000 activities in more than 130 countries, and we have served more than 2.5 million customers in more than 14 languages. That's the number of languages we translate our product to. We have engineers working in Berlin and Zurich, and our apps team is actually a small one. We have 2 engineers per platform, one backend engineer, and then a product manager and designer, so a typical product team. What am I going to cover? I'm going to give you a bit of context about app development, also an internal context on how we work at GetYourGuide, then how we were working before, how did we develop the first versions of our apps, and problems we found, how we solved them, and the results of this change. So native apps. So second show of hands here. Who is a native app developer here? Okay. And the next show of hands, who works at a company who develops native apps? Okay, well, great change from 5 years ago. So it means that you already share some of the context I'm gonna tell you. Native apps, they run on a fragile environment. They run in a sandbox, more or less like web apps nowadays. And they have more constrained memory, less processing power. Well, we have high-end devices with lots of processing power, but that's not the whole user base that we have. And also limited connectivity. I think this is the biggest difference. You can have users using your app offline. And because of all this, the environment, if you violate any of their rules, they will gonna crash your app. So it happens more that your app will just cease to run. So yeah, it's very demanding. Also local storage, because of the offline capabilities, you have to offer some offline data. They normally are done with relational databases, and these will require data migration every time you change your schemas. Provisioning. This is a hard topic. I believe this is only necessary for iOS, but and this is also changing. So I won't cover in detail, but this has been a problem for the last years. is that apps must be signed when they run on a device. So you need to be a registered developer. And the setup to provision the apps, provide the right certificates and profiles, it's quite complicated and can fail. All in all, so you as developers also work on a volatile environment. There are new technologies every year. Of course, this is true also for JavaScript developers. But these are first-party technologies that are appearing every year at WWDC or Google I/O. Users are also constantly updating their devices. It's not like on a desktop. It's not the gold rush it used to be, it's true. But it still keeps you on your toes. You still need to keep learning. You're not comfortable. Another part is the App Store. That's how you distribute your apps. Mostly, that's true for us, for instance. And you won't drive away from them because, at least according to Apple, 65% of the downloads come from search. So that's lots of organic downloads coming from there. It's not easy though. It has an opaque ranking system. They don't share that much data, so it's hard to optimize. And user acquisition is hard and expensive. Everyone tries to acquire mobile users, so it gets even more expensive. Then the infamous approval times for iOS. It is true. 1 year ago, the average approval time was about 9 days. So you finish your app, you have something that you want to show to your users, and it takes 9 days for them to see it. Right now, that's from here, app review times. You can see some metrics shared by some developers, and you can see that most apps are reviewed in less than 24 hours. Well, on Android, 0 days. It's out when you're done. Also, when you roll an update, it doesn't mean that everyone will have access to the latest version. It takes 72 hours for us on iOS and 96 hours on Android, on our user base, to get 80% of our users running our latest version. 97% of our users are running one of our 5 most recent versions, but as a long tail, a very long tail, 33 versions are calling our backend at any given moment. It's a lot. Now about the internal context of GetYourGuide. We like to say that experimentation runs on our DNA. So everything we think it's true, it's just an hypothesis, and we should write an experiment that proves this hypothesis. We also have a mission, so that's how we group people together. Engineers, product managers, and designers, they are grouped in a mission. What's a mission? A mission is an action around a metric. So you want to improve a metric, either by growing conversion, growing repeat, growing acquisition, lowering bounce. Those are our missions. We just pick what are the missions that make more sense for a given period, and we group people together around those missions. And yeah, hypotheses and experiments means that we are more sure that we are building the right product. We try to do it in a way that maximizes learnings. Learning is one of the things we believe in, and we try to do it in small feedback cycles. All in all, to improve customer experience and also to waste the littlest amount of money. However, because apps is still recent on GetYourGuide, we still didn't have the feature set that we believe was a solid one, and also the amount of users that provides us with a big amount of data. So up until recently, we were not doing experimentation. And this was leaving us in a situation where we were not communicating in the same language within the company. So how we were building our apps, we were building in a typical feature-driven process. We had branches to isolate and finish features, and builds for all these quality stages. I'm talking about pull request, selected to release, then a release candidate, and finally the master. We were doing continuous integration already with automated builds and automated testing, but the release was manual. And this was our emotional roller coaster during development time. Yeah, we tried to ship on a date. Normally we would miss it. And well, then it could happen that the release was broken. Because it was manual, we would take longer. We would find problems that we didn't know up until then. And yeah, these would repeat a lot. Yeah, spirits were down, I have to say. Features were also suffering from scope creeping, and we were failing our goals. Well, it's just being honest. So of course, we detected the problem there. So we moved away from this, and well, now I have to stop and say, well, we did this 3 months ago, okay? So I have limited results to show, and it's also just the results of GetYourGuide, a travel company doing this approach I'm going to tell you now. So it's applicable to you? I don't know. I won't say that. But, well, the only thing that proves for us is that it's good to experiment. It's good to try new approaches and can give you some results. So that's the only suggestion I can make on stage now. So we decided to release every 2 weeks. Like I said, an experiment on the way we do stuff. With this way, we focus on being focused. And we kept a continuous stream of updates so that, fixes, we developed the fix, and now the fix has to wait until the features are done so the users can benefit from this fix. I'm not talking about hotfix level fixes, but still some stability fix that also makes users happier. It's definitely not a new process. Like I said, Facebook wrote a blog post about this in 2012. But it's a bigger team. For us, it was interesting to understand how these would apply on a smaller team like ours. Developing on this example from Facebook, they have hundreds of engineers working on their app. So definitely that the point that I made about fixes is way more relevant for them. So what did we come up? We wanted this to release every 2 weeks. That was our challenge, and then we needed to do some things in order to be able to do it. First thing, we knew we need to keep merging. So instead of protecting code and unfinished code in their separate branches, we did feature toggles. It means that we are shipping unfinished features to the store. Users just don't see them. That's, well, the most simplistic way of doing a feature toggle, and that's the only piece of code I have on my presentation. Also, I want to point you to a talk from Spotify at UIConf last year that talks about their approach also to merging. We also had to simplify our processes. Yes, we had automated test builds. We have automated testing. That was our CI process, but we needed more stuff into these processes, like importing localized assets. We have 14 different languages, and up until then, we were doing it manually, importing all these assets into the project. And we got rid of release notes. This is a topic that not every engineer understands because we normally go through the release notes, but this is mostly true for people who decide upon updating an app or not based on release notes. Everyone else, and that's the majority, they update automatically. So we don't need to do copyright on release notes, and we don't need to translate them in 14 different languages, which would happen normally in the last 2 days of the release. So we also got rid of that. Well, we understood that we needed a continuous delivery process. That was obvious. We needed that every change we did could be pushed to the store by the click of a button. It was built over our existing CI process with the test builds and UI tests. We already had a deployment pipeline like Oki app, but now we made test flight part of the process as well, and release. Release was now one process. It was not manual anymore, so we could just do it with one click. We chose Fastlane on iOS. I'm talking for the iOS part here. Fastlane is a tool from Twitter. They bought the tool recently. It's a tool chain for continuous delivery. They have tools also for Android, but it's mostly used on iOS. And with this, we were able to achieve a streamlined process. We brought our scripts under a Fastlane lane that allows us to do a one-click release. And we also simplified that provisioning part with Match. It's actually a personal suggestion I do to everyone doing iOS up until iOS 10 is out. But try this out, try Match. With this, we only have one signing entity. So way simpler, not multiples of certificates lying around that are expiring every time. And so now about the results. Yeah, we were moving faster. Well, 7 releases, we did 7 releases in these 3 months against 3 in the previous 3 months. But well, this is just a number. It doesn't mean that we were doing better. But we are moving now more to experimentation. As you can see, we launched 5 different experiments in the same period against 2. So we are doing more experimentation. So means also that we are reacting more to the market. They were smaller. We had to build them in 2 weeks. But they were bolder because we also wanted to have the same amount of data, the same quality of data from those 2 weeks. And I have to apologize, but it was actually fortunate. We were featured on the App Store, and this diluted our metrics. It diluted our user base, so we cannot conclude, not in a way that I can share here, our conversion, engagement were impacted by this approach. It was also only 3 months data, so I believe it's still early to say at this part on the metrics. But if we are moving fast, at least we are not breaking things. These are the crashes per sessions, and in the past 3 months, we are under 1%. It's a bit more stable. And in terms of reviews, we are also stable and actually trending slightly up. Now, a bit of an insight of how we handle with all these feature toggles, with all these experiments running on the app. This is a secret settings screen available to our testers, where you can just toggle things on and off, and understand how the app reacts. All of these are backed by remote overrides. So yeah, we can enable experiments remotely. I think that's obvious, given that we are in 2016. We also got a solid process. I think this is also very good. We got, from this challenge, we got a solid process back. Yeah, it's a more stable set of scripts for continuous integration and development, more comprehensive. We can now push to the store. We can also import all the localized assets with the script that we got. Yeah, it's demanding. We have to continuously maintain them, and requires expertise in CI. Not everyone in our team had it, but now we have more expertise in CI and testing tools, and also we are owning our process because we have to develop scripts for them. Yeah, it's only the beginning. We are committing to keep doing this, and it's a long path ahead, integrating more stuff and doing better experiments. Thank you. Thank you.
So, questions? The awkward guy with the glasses. Just throw it in.
Hello, Fábio. Nice talk. Thank you. So you were talking about the number of days that it takes to the App Store to review your app.
Yeah.
That's something that's not really a given fact. So today, nowadays, we know that it takes 1 day, but it can easily take 3 or 4 or 5 days. There's no guarantee that it won't take that long. My question is, since I think that you guys want to coordinate with Android releases, what is the process that takes, like, what do you guys do when do you want to release at the same time as Android?
So first, I'm gonna address the process or the release time, approval time. It's now more stable. From the same web page that I showed that data, you also have the trends around the last year, and it's now more or less constant around 1 and 2 days. 2 days average, but most are approved in less than 24 hours. I think Apple is working on this, and it's going to get better because of some reason, but we can share that later. The coordination part is about enabling the feature from the backend on the same day. But also if it happens just in 1 day difference, it's not a big problem. Of course, it depends on how you do PR, how you communicate the new features.
Okay, thank you.
Over there.
Hi, thank you, by the way. I have a simple question, I think. It's not. How you talked about using TestFlight for deploying to your QA team, I think. How do you manage deploying your beta version with Fastlane?
So,
Like, do you have another app for the QA team to experiment on, or do you release the TestFlight version in the app, in the same app?
So TestFlight has their own group of testers through Apple dashboard. We are releasing the release candidate, so the same thing that the users on the App Store would see. Okay. So I think that already addressed part of your question.
Yeah, you make sure the app you're testing through TestFlight is the one that you're releasing to the App Store.
Yeah. However, it doesn't mean that we don't have other types of apps. So we have a testing backend. So we have then 2 different configurations, but those we distribute through Hockey app.
Okay.
Okay. So TestFlight we use for release candidate. Hockey app we use for alpha and beta versions of the app.
Yeah, just one more, please. Yeah. How do you release the new features that are hidden from the user? Do you launch a new update and in the metadata you say like, oh, we have a new toggle, a new button, or do you use something like remote config of Firebase to do it and give an alert in app to the user?
So there are 2 parts to that question, I think. So one is the communication of new features, and the second is how we enable it. So the way we enable, it's like a configuration that comes from, well, it's not Firebase, but it's similar, just a configuration of which version of each feature to show. And regarding communication, we don't communicate That's an alternative to release notes, but we didn't find the need to do a push saying you are on version A of this experiment. Well, that's not the text we would send to a user, definitely. But yeah, so hey, you have now this new button that you can use to, for instance, add something to a wish list. We don't do that. If we find the need to bring the users to the attention of some feature, yeah, we would.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? Last question?
Hi.
Hi.
In the first slides, I saw that you described the feature branching model. Did you completely abandon that?
Could you speak a bit more loud?
Yeah. You described the feature branching model in the beginning,
Yeah.
and it was not very clear to me if you completely abandoned that model to speed up the releases.
So the difference here is we still do a feature branch approach, just that we merge earlier. Before we had an epic branch running longer until we decided that we wanted to release that feature. So we would just merge into this branch that represents a feature, and when we decided it's ready, it's done, because once it's on the major branch, it's going to be released on the release date. So it was more or less like Git flow with epic branches. Feature branches and epic branches that aggregates multiple features. Right now, we are still doing feature branches, but we merge them earlier with a feature toggle. So although we merge it, you won't be able to see it until we change the configuration. Does that answer your question?
Yes, thanks.
Anyone else?
We have one there.
Over there.
Hi, Fábio. Thank you for your talk. What I wanted to know was that on GetYourGuide, if you have something like a dilemma between supporting native apps and web apps that support mobile. What are your thoughts about that? And if it exists, how do you manage that dilemma?
Okay. So we have a mobile web version of our product, and we have native mobile version, and they are different. The use cases are also different. Normally, if you are in a destination, like if you're traveling to Paris, and you use your phone to search for tickets to the Eiffel Tower, we can drive you to our website, but not to the app if you don't have the app installed. That can change on Android with instant apps, but as of now, that's not a possibility. So still we separate use cases. The use case for our app is for afterwards. We have to sell this use case to the users in order to get the app. And for this use case, which means more offline access, because roaming is still not it's still not out of the equation. We still need so offline access, limited data usage, and tools that you want them to be fast, like maps. So that's the use cases we are building our apps around, and that's why we are not moving away from this so soon. But we are aware of that, and if new technologies come, and we are dependent on what Apple and Google enables, the technologies they give us, and for now we don't have that option to build a native experience with these use cases, of course, on our apps. But it's a debate, and it's an ongoing debate. Of course, I think I would find some opinions here that would like to say I'm wrong.
Anyone else? No? So Thank you, Fábio.
Thank you.